So this is not the Vancouver Canucks Filip Hronek update that I wanted to give y'all, but following up on our conversation the other day discussing the idea of a Hronek for Necas trade, what I wanted to do in this video was go over that same idea a bit more and dive into what the opposing perspective could be. Because sure, it's easy and it's fun to go out there and talk about what Marty Necas of the Carolina Hurricanes could provide the Vancouver Canucks, a scoring forward, a nice top six guy who could get a bigger role with Vancouver and thus more points. He's very good. And if he does come over to Vancouver, that would be an awesome acquisition. But when everybody talks about the idea of Necas getting traded to Vancouver, they always seem to bring up Filip Hronek's name in response because, as we had said, it's kind of the easy idea. You take a look at guys that one of these teams may be looking to move, and you talk about another guy that the other team might be looking to move to, and you swap them just for the sake of swapping them. Filip Hronek is 26 years old, 6 feet, 187 right-handed guy, and he will get a pretty beefy extension that I don't know if the Vancouver Canucks would actually be able to pay properly. He's reportedly asking for something in the $7-8 million range, which would be a lot for him. Sure, he had 48 points in 81 games this season, but the majority of his production came in the first half of the year. He fell off in the second half, and his point production in the playoffs left a lot to be desired, despite the fact that he had scored the last goal for Vancouver in their 2024 playoff run. But still, Filip Hronek has priced himself out of Vancouver, and the idea of trading him over to Carolina has intrigued many Canucks fans. With this in mind, though, what I wanted to do was head over to a video interview done on Canucks Army from yesterday. This is the Canucks Conversation podcast. The folks on the show had Corey Schnasder from McKeen's Hockey come out there and make an appearance, and they asked him about the perspective of Carolina potentially acquiring a guy like Filip Hronek. The title of the post says, hey, don't expect the Hurricanes to actually want this guy. So I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go ahead and listen to the audio segment. It's only 48 seconds long. It's not that big of a deal. But if you listen to the actual audio, Schnasder goes out there and says this: I just think that trading Hronek for Necas is just trading one problem for another, honestly, because, they have to pay Filip Hronek. He's an RFA. Also, he's coming off a career season, and I don't know if contract or money is the problem with Necas, or if it's just where he is in the lineup. That's the issue, but I just don't see it, unless, you lose Brett Pesce or a Brady Shea. Then it's okay, here's a guy that you at least have under control for a little bit. But this front office, this front office has not given a long-term contract to a defenseman yet. I think the longest they gave out to was Orlov last year. And getting a guy like Filip Hronek on an RFA deal, I feel like that's something they won't do. If they're looking for a defenseman, it's going to be somebody already under contract. And so again, video link is going to be there in the description if you want to listen to this hit yourself, but essentially the main idea is that Filip Hronek, whilst he is a guy that I think a lot of Canucks fans would say has value, the idea of sending him over to the Hurricanes for Necas just may not work because the Hurricanes would probably not want him. And that's totally understandable too. We had talked about this in a few videos, but the Hurricanes have been so stingy over the years in terms of not wanting to spend extra dollars and not trying to commit super big term and anything to any of their guys, even the ones that they draft and develop themselves. It's been very interesting how Carolina has treated their contract negotiations over the years. It's what drove Sebastian Aho to signing an offer sheet with Montreal. But even with the guys that they have now, they don't like to commit super big term, they don't like to commit super big dollar amounts, and if Filip Hronek is getting held up by Vancouver because, yeah, he wants $8 million, but the Canucks are not willing to give him that, unfortunately, I feel like he'll run into the exact same problem if he was in the Carolina Hurricanes. They don't like to give out big money to defensemen either. So for Hronek, a guy whom the Canucks might need to maybe pull some sort of a sign-and-trade with, or let Carolina do their own negotiating with him, it doesn't really feel like a Carolina move. They might just be interested in getting a guy who has a contract already in place and where the Hurricanes will not need to think about making these negotiations happen or arguing with some sort of an arbitrator or whatever. Filip Hronek has a lot of this baggage attached to his contract. Even though the team that he is on will have control over him, it's not like he'll walk away for free. All they got to do is just qualify the offer. but it's a lot more work, and if the Hurricanes don't necessarily need an extra defenseman anyway, we had already talked about this, but who does Hronek replace on that right side? Tony DeAngelo, I guess? If you want to keep Brent Burns, you want to keep Jalen Chatfield? I was saying the idea, if you want to go all in and just say, hey, go 3 right-handed defensemen that are all offensive. Go DeAngelo, Burns, and Hronek. That would be a pretty interesting combination, but of course, Jalen Chatfield brings a lot of stability on the back end. I'm just kind of saying that hedonistically because I would like the Canucks to get him back because he's a good shutdown player, but still, if it's not Filip Hronek over to Carolina, then if you're a Canucks fan, let me know your thoughts as to where else Hronek could be on the move to, assuming he does not stay in Vancouver and the Canucks are not able to make a contract work. I mean, based off of everything we've been hearing, it doesn't really seem like there's going to be a fit unless one or the other side completely backs down from their own standards, which the Canucks, I don't think they're going to do. I don't think they're going to overpay on a guy like Filip Hronek just to keep him around, pay him more than Quinn Hughes to have him play with Quinn Hughes, because realistically, if you've got Hughes and Hronek playing on the same pairing, it would only make sense that Hughes makes more money, right? I get it, you can talk about contract timing and when these deals were signed versus what they're at now and everything, but still, there's something that feels wrong about that, and I feel like there's sort of a Detroit Red Wings move that needs to be established here. Hey, JT is making 8. You're not making more than JT. PD is making 11.3. You're not going to be anywhere near that. Quinn is making 7.8. No defenseman on the team should be making more than 7.8. Like, if they tried to implement the old Lidstrom rule, I feel like it'd be very beneficial, but of course, you know, Canadian teams already have it difficult enough to attract free agents and talent in the first place, so what benefit would they be serving for themselves if they made it harder for these other players to agree with contract extensions? So you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the idea of Filip Hronek not really being a target of interest for Carolina, and whether or not you think that changes a big deal in these Marty Necas conversations. There's always the idea that Necas could just come over to Vancouver with some sort of another trade. It doesn't have to be Hronek, it's just everybody seems to be discussing about this one guy because it makes the most sense out of all the other conversations we can have. Oh yeah, just swap the 2 Czech guys, the 2 dudes that need new contracts and their situations. Of course, one of them might just want more money, the other might need a bigger role with his team. Necas coming over to Vancouver could get that. If he plays with Elias Pettersson, that'd be awesome, and Hronek would have to go through this entire contract negotiation kerfuffle with Carolina too, which is something that they probably wouldn't want. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this Filip Hronek trade update. I'm saying that very loosely, but we'll say trade update here just because it goes over some thoughts that the Carolina Hurricanes might have in regards to this discussion. If it isn't Filip Hronek for Necas, then what else is it? Do you think you touch a prospect? Do you think you touch a pick or something? Multiple picks, a first and let's say a third? Or do you talk about a Tom Willander or something like that? I honestly would be kind of hesitant to depart with any of the other prospects the Canucks have just because I like them so much, but you know, Patrick Allvin, he's ruthless at times. It's going to be fun to keep up to date with where this is going to go, isn't it? But thoughts in the comment section below, trade packages, trade prices, and Filip Hronek's future. I hope you enjoyed this video, 99, and bye.